This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. They are, in fact, having a community of practice on Thursday, May 14th at, do you remember?
1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Nice job. It's like we've said it before. This is in collaboration with the National Applied AI Consortium. You can learn more at nextgenmfg.org. They're going to be talking all things education, workforce development, and advanced manufacturing. And again, this episode is sponsored by Edia, the AI platform to improve K-12 outcomes. You can learn more, Liz, at
edia.app/contact.
And we are thankful for their partnership. Liz, this is a troubling time. Right?
Oh, is it?
There's a lot going on. And that's excluding what's happening in people, a.k.a. your home. But certainly, like, we've got, wars and gas prices, and actually, hopefully not plural wars. I mean, primarily a military combat exercise war thing. But a lot of global conflict, a lot of anxiety around AI. We're going to talk about that stuff. So, of course, AI is contributing in positive ways to this this kind of global crisis with the rise of what folks are calling slopaganda.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's contributing in any positive way.
Do you want to reverse engineer slopaganda? It's kind of fun to say, actually.
Slopaganda?
Yes.
Yeah, well, slopaganda is AI-generated content used for political manipulation. So there have been a lot of recent examples, including Iranian propaganda featuring Lego-style political figures.
I wonder what the folks at Lego think of that. Have you seen these?
I haven't.
They're interesting. They're sort of like Trump and Netanyahu and the devil.
All as Lego minifigs?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Well, there's also been AI videos posted by Donald Trump and other political people. These materials are clearly fake, but they're diluting like the real information environment, and they're bypassing mental defenses through like emotional appeal. And this is what's really like eroding the trust in general of people and anything they see, because people don't believe anything they see now because they don't believe anything is real. And so then you are in this like weird universe of like, what's real, what's not, what do you believe, what don't you believe? So it's hard to find the trustworthy information.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hopefully when you see either a video of Trump poo-bombing a civilization, or that's poo-bombing as in poo, or a Lego, I like how you say minifig, a Lego minifig video, which is clearly both AI, slop, and propaganda brought together, that we know something's off. But yeah, I mean, certainly in polarized societies, the ability to identify what's trustworthy or not. And certainly there's a lot of pressure, right? So this is, you can read more from The Guardian. The title of the article, by the way, is AI-generated Lego videos and Trump poo-bombing. Welcome to the U.S.-Iranian slopaganda wars. We'll put that into the show notes, but there's also a call to arms, a call to action, let's say,
yes,
for tech giants like OpenAI and Google and X to be more accountable, to really make sure that these things aren't disseminated on their platforms. But we will see where it goes. Liz, usually these opens are kind of fun and light and weird, but this week it's slopaganda.
Well, yeah. So I was thinking about this and how like there's also this calls for like widespread education. So we think of that education happening in schools and at jobs and things like that. But for people who are older and no longer working, or like, just casual people, how are they getting this education? And I was thinking back to, I studied abroad in Spain in 1999, and lots of Europe was getting ready to transition to the euro. But I was thinking about how there needed to be a re-education of 12 entire countries to transition to a new form of payment. And so when they were doing that, there were all kinds of ways that people were learning about it through commercials and a transition period and pamphlets, and just you needed a full court press to literally like prepare everyone who was used to paying like 100 pesetas was about €1, but just figuring out how many francs or marks or whatever was going to be equal to €1. So they needed to do like a whole country education. And I'm wondering if we need some of that like in our regular society. Like, do we put on PSAs or commercials in the middle of shows that say like, hey, seeing lots of videos like this, here's how you detect for AI. Like, I think about, my parents aren't being educated on AI in any formal setting. They are just so lucky to have me in their lives. But I think about, my aunts and uncles and other people who aren't getting this education from somebody. So how are they learning how to discern what's real and what's not?
You don't think when they see a Trump poo-bombing or an Iranian Lego minifig video that they're like, that may not be actually what David Muir's handling on the ABC News.
Well, I think that those are obvious examples. But I think when you think about other more subtle examples of AI that they aren't. And they'll say, like, I saw a video of Trump saying XYZ or this person saying ABC or whatever. Like, I don't think people know. And I think it's the same with like the grandparents they prey on with deepfake voices. And so how do you know that that's not actually your grandson calling from the hospital or prison? I think there needs to be some national widespread education about AI and deepfakes.
Well, if there is a national widespread education about deepfakes, you know who would be happy to lead the charge?
ChatEDU.
Nice. Exactly. So with that, I am Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is ChatEDU, the show about leading and learning in the age of AI. Liz, in today's episode, will AI flatten the K-12 and higher education org chart? ?
Ooh.
We're going to take a look at Block, which is the Square and Cash App company. So he did this big restructuring. The headline was 4,000 people lost their jobs, which is a huge bummer. At the same time, he did this whole very interesting restructuring the organization from 8 levels to 3 levels. And we want to look at whether or not there's some signals there that are useful in the world of AI and education.
First is the full show rundown. We'll start by looking at an interesting Gemini and NotebookLM update, think peanut butter and chocolate, and a new NotebookLM clone from Adobe.
Sweet. Then we're going to go to the Big Apple, New York City, and we're going to look at 2 stories from there. One is a custom-built counselor from the folks at Urban Assembly, and the other is New York City put out a new set of AI guidance. We're particularly interested in, they did a red, yellow, green thing, but the yellow and red are really interesting, so we're going to look at that.
Then we'll examine some workforce development, higher education, and entrepreneurship trends, including a pretty cool story from someone who lost their job due to AI and turned to entrepreneurship for their future.
I feel a dramatic reading.
Ah.
And then we're going to look at the White House Challenge, Liz, because we are into Beyond the Bot, where kids are using AI to solve real-world problems. And so we're going to look at 2 of the state-level winners, one from Massachusetts and one from Texas. These are the solutions that students developed, and they're cool to look at.
All right, and it's nice to see some balanced reporting on screen time. And in this case, we'll look at how engaging uses of tech can be helpful for folks your age and above.
Yes, we are not the same age. And then finally, the rundown, we're going to look at how a Washington state district used AI-assisted coding, which people call vibe coding, to save Liz nearly $250,000. And not only save money, but also do some really cool stuff that they have had a hard time doing.
And then we'll go beneath the surface and try a thought experiment regarding AI and flattening dense hierarchies in K-12 and higher education. And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Bite.
Fantastic. All right, Liz, apparently NotebookLM is a little bit of a success. People are kind of into it.
Yeah, like a lot of people, including both of us.
Yeah, and Adobe. So Adobe has taken note, and they have launched what is currently a free thing called Student Spaces. This is a beta platform that allows students to convert study materials into interactive tools, such as, shockingly,
flashcards, quizzes, and AI-generated podcasts.
Get out of here. The platform features an AI assistant that acts as a tutor, providing in-text citations that link directly back to the source material. Hey, what is it? Copying is the highest form of flattery, something like that?
Imitation is
thank you.
the sincerest form of flattery.
It's actually interesting. We'll put the link to the show note. The UI on it is it's fun. It's very Adobe, and it's got a lot of visual pop to it for sure. The service will also support group collaboration, which is not, it sort of is a thing inside Notebook, so maybe they'll start stealing from each other, but it allows peers to share notes and discuss ideas and build presentations together.
Yeah, I tried it last night, and it generated the podcast really fast, and it sounds very similar, 2 voices going back and forth. But what was interesting is that on Adobe's podcast, I could read the transcript, which is not a thing you can do on NotebookLM. And so I thought that was a key differentiator that I really liked. I also made flashcards, which were, very similar. front, back.
I mean, this is the benefit of having competition, right? Because they can start being like, ooh, that's a clever idea. Let me go steal that, right? And we can go back and forth that way. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad that you jumped in and had a look at it. All right. Now, speaking of Notebook, this is pretty interesting. I don't know, has this not shown up in your UI yet, your
Not
user
yet.
interface? Okay,
No.
cool. So this is from the Google, the keyword, their blog, Try Notebooks in Gemini. Now, this has been a thing a little bit already. You could go, when you're adding a source, you could add a notebook, but now essentially in the left-hand panel below Gems, there is notebooks, and you can bring in existing notebooks or you can build real new notebooks right inside the Gemini user interface. And essentially what this is similar to projects inside like Claude and ChatGPT. So it's the ability to organize a bunch of your stuff, but it's a little bit more because you can also then do all the notebooky things like podcasts and flashcards and quizzes and all that good stuff. I built one, for instance, we're working on a proposal right now for our State Department of Education on a particular topic. I won't reveal, it's top secret. But, I just put in like the name of the project and started a notebook around that and then started my chats around that. I had a budget and some other stuff. And so it kind of lets us organize and we could share that notebook. So it's kind of like letting you chat inside Gemini with the notebook. That's kind of handy. I mean, or let's say you're a teacher, you could have one for your, classes, or you're a manager in a corporation. You could have one for each of your employees that work for you. So we'll see where it goes. This is rolled out first to the Plus and Pro and everyone but Liz.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's right on the left-hand side. It's not in the mobile user interface yet, but it is in the desktop for many people. If you don't see it yet, coming to a theater near you, but probably really ultimately kind of like for organization.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think the other thing that people are really looking for, and I hope gets there soon, is being able to organize all your chats, like put them in a folder or something. I mean, I get asked that. Do you get asked that at PD all the time?
1,000%. And the people who are really freaked out are the inbox zero people who clear their, because they're like, wait, I can't
get rid of it. And then you can only,
It's almost like a psychological issue. And no, not almost. It is entirely a psychological issue, right? Because you can't have that kind of type A organization. The notebooks do that at some degree. Like if you decide to put all your chats inside notebooks, you could kind of keep them all nested in that way. But that would be a little weird. All right. So now, Liz, let's widen the lens a little bit. We start with some tools, and now let's talk about two stories from the city. Just coincidentally, that's the glue holding them together.
New York City.
New York. Well, I said the city, which is obviously New York City.
Well, I just read a book over the weekend, and they kept referring to the city, and it was Toronto.
Oh, well, there you go. Is it Toronto or is it Toronto?
I don't know.
So this is on-demand college counseling courtesy of AI. This is covered in Chalkbeat. The couple of really cool stories in Chalkbeat this week. One we're going to cover next week about Sal Khan. Ooh,
there's some drama.
Feisty. But hold the phone. That'll be in episode 107. So New York City Public Schools are piloting Counselor GPT, a specialized AI tool developed by the nonprofit Urban Assembly to assist overburdened college counselors. It's in 13 schools right now, proprietary platform. Now, we happen to know the folks at Urban Assembly. The CEO or the executive director is a really neat guy named David Adams. He's actually going to be on the podcast. I think we're recording with him in June. They built a thing called Project Cafe. This is a public nonprofit. They do all sorts of cool work in New York and a little bit beyond. We're working with them. They came up to New Britain, working with a few of our districts. But it's a camera. It's an iPad you put in the back of the classroom. It does video of the teacher teaching. Only goes to the teacher, but uses AI to do analysis. It grants a whole bunch of points of like instructional improvement. Really, really interesting, really cool AI application. But this is different. They custom built something here, which is not totally dissimilar. And we've been building sort of stuff like this, but this is the counselor. What do you see as a value proposition of this thing?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is that counselors are overburdened. The school counselors are expected to do so much, and college admissions is one of them. So, it functions as a patient intake form. So it helps record student queries to help them prepare for their one-on-one meetings, shifts their role from just like administrative task handling to actually providing social and emotional support in many ways.
So they're not doing some of this kind of like administrative stuff so they can do more high-value, human, high-touch things.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Cool.
And probably also makes some of the, quicker meetings that don't need to take a lot of time just a little more efficient, or for students to get a little more access to some guidance on the college application process, because it's hard and it's hard to navigate and it gets more complicated every year. So anything that we can do to support students getting the information they need and counselors having the time that they want to do this is a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's live labor market data in here. It's been kind of custom trained with guardrails. There's always the outside risk of a little bit of hallucination, right? So We always need to make sure that the information is accurate and timely, but nonetheless, a fairly thoughtfully, not fairly, a really thoughtfully designed system to support students. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what this looks like when it scales. And this gives us a second thing to talk with David Adams about when he joins us. He just became one of the fellows on the Rhythm project too, I noticed, which is awesome.
Okay.
I don't know if they call them fellows, but they've got like some lead partners. All right, now also from New York City, Liz, this is from the New York City Public Schools, NYCPS. They've just put out their comprehensive policy framework. This is a 4-phase roadmap for AI integration, and it has a traffic light risk model, but it's a little different than the traffic light. Like most of the traffic lights that we've been dealing with are what?
Student facing.
Yeah.
And about how students can use AI in their projects. Basically, red light, can't use AI at all. Green is use all the AI you want, and yellow is in the middle. But that's really kind of problematic. And it's so vague because some are like, use it up to this point, which is just brainstorming, or use it up to this point, which is brainstorming and editing. So the red and green are very clear, but the yellow is very not.
Yeah, it's a messy middle for sure. I mean, it's one of the reasons we're big fans of the AI assessment scale, because I think those 5 levels, you really have 4 levels of use, are more discrete. And there's a huge important distinction between levels 3, 4, and 5. 5 is like White House challenge,
Right.
and 4 is pretty aggressively using AI, but then documenting and reflecting and probably assessing what that looks like. So yeah, I just think it gives you a little bit more direction for sure. So, but here we have a different red, yellow, green. But it's interesting because the guidance document in general is covering all sorts of stuff, but the red, yellow, green is really focused around teacher and adult use. So tell us about the red, yellow, green here.
Yeah, so red is what AI is prohibited from doing. So they make it very clear. AI cannot be used for student placement. So I'm assuming that's in like what level math class you're in.
It's really algorithmic. Okay.
Discipline, promotion, grading, IEP and 504 development, surveillance, or therapeutic counseling. In the yellow category, which is used with caution, it's allowed with heavy human oversight for interpreting student data patterns, translating critical communications that must be reviewed by a linguist or someone that speaks the native language, and student research/creative projects. And then the green, ways that it is actually encouraged to be used, is it's approved for brainstorming lesson ideas, streamlining administrative tasks like scheduling and formatting, and drafting non-critical communications as long as there's a disclaimer.
Yeah, so there's a lot here, right? I mean, I would imagine that almost everybody in the audience, there's something on that list, like the very last thing, the disclaimer, goes into all sorts of disclosure. That's a hot debate about when and where and how to disclose. I really like the thing that we covered from EDUCAUSE a few weeks back, which was like these 4 levels of disclosure for higher ed faculty, but relevant for K-12 as well. So there'd be some debate there. I think what jumps out to you in the red, where we know that people are either doing this work or would have questions. I mean, we don't disagree about any of the algorithmic stuff. The grading thing we talk about all the time as being problematic, but...
IEP and 504 development, we do not believe that a bot should write these things, but it can come up with some really great ideas, and you keep that human in the loop. And so, but to say that it can't be used at all for IEP and 504 development is interesting, because I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, sort of like the student counselor from Urban Assembly. We're going to have a guy named Jody Minotti on over the summer. He has built a really interesting custom bot with all sorts of guardrails and lots of like directive human in the loop engagement for IEP, 504, and MTSS. These are data dense environments where there's a lot of like intellectual heft, so to speak, that can come from the AI in partnership. And in some cases, I mean, I'll let Jody speak to it, but he's seeing counselors finding that, and special education professionals finding that the systems are really helping them come up with better interventions.
Right.
So, I mean, but at the same time, there's a disclaimer on that thing, because I know it's going to show up in somebody's lawsuit that says the district really has to own this. So this is going to get really interesting, but appreciate New York City kind of drawing lines in the sand, because if nothing else, it forces us to have meaningful conversations about it.
Right.
For sure. All right. Should we widen the aperture just a little bit more?
Keep going.
All right, cool. So let's look at some meta trends. So this is interesting. This came from the Daily Princetonian.
Love it.
Do you read the Princetonian Daily, Dr. Ade?
I don't, but
I feel like if someone would, it would be you. So amid the AI boom, Princetonian swapped school for Silicon Valley. Short version is they're dropping out of college and doing startups, right?
pretty much, yep. Princeton students, PhD candidates are taking leaves of absence or just dropping out completely to capitalize on this rapid pace of AI development. So they are, having some record-breaking venture capital funding. So it's interesting because Princeton is in the realm of like kind of higher ed and Ivy League institutions. It's been a place that's been less risk averse and less entrepreneurial.
It's a little safe, right? It's no Stanford.
Right. It's not Stanford. It's not MIT. But even, AI is forcing this kind of campus cultural shift because there's this like opportunity cost that they are recognizing of staying in school and the rising status of the Ivy League dropouts that are in Silicon Valley. And we can all name them, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard and
Sure, Jobs, Gates, on and on it
right,
goes.
all of these people. So, now Princeton is in on the mix. It's an interesting shift.
Well, part of what it underscores, there are, as people look at the labor market disruption, which is a topic we come back to on a regular basis, we think it's important. It informs K-12 and higher ed and workforce development. There is some thinking out there that entrepreneurship winds up being like one of the safer paths to be in. And that, while we are not going to make everybody an entrepreneur, we may widen the number of folks who are doing entrepreneurial activities. And let's deepen that a little bit. So QU, right here in our backyard, QU, Dr. Ade is
Quinnipiac University.
Yeah, they're famous for doing all sorts of polling, political polling and others. So in March, last month, they put out a national poll showing deep skepticism and pessimism around AI, specifically on the labor market, right? 70% of Americans predicting a decrease in job opportunities. And so I wanted to pair that. This is from a little bit ago, but I love a dramatic reading from Dr. Ade. I want to pair that with a community workflow, which is a thing that they feature every couple of days in the Rundown Daily, which is a wonderful daily newsletter. And it was about someone who is made redundant, as they say, across the pond. Yeah. Although this was in New Zealand, I think.
It's across the other pond.
Another pond, right?
The Pacific pond.
Yeah, I was talking about being made redundant and how it really, in part because of AI, and then how they turn to AI to drive the spirit of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So Dr. Reddy, if you would, this is from Claire B. in New Zealand. I believe you're not going to use your best New Zealand accent, though.
Absolutely not.
Okay, have at it.
Okay, so I'm 58, a technophobe, and was made redundant last year. Claude has been the best teacher, helping me set up a new business making tallow and kawa-kawa-based balms. It helped write my plan and financials. It perfected my recipes and gave advice on specific ingredients. Claude held my hand through my Shopify website setup, connecting my domain name, writing my SEO and copy. Claude has been my business partner throughout the entire process and kept me encouraged and determined when I felt overwhelmed. Claude is a brilliant business guru and has given me the strength to push through and start my own business when I thought I was too old to try.
Isn't that great?
So awesome.
I've been holding on to the story for a little while because I just thought it was so interesting, and we had this nice kind of pairing with the Princetonian piece. So yeah, entrepreneurship is going to be an important pathway here, and whether that means that you're doing a one-person billion-dollar unicorn startup, or you're building tallow and kawa-kawa-based bombs. Liz, do you use kawa-kawa-based bombs?
No, but of course I had to go read about kawa-kawa. And it's a plant that grows in New Zealand that the Maori people think is really important, but the leaves have holes in them.
Huh.
And they believe that the more holes in the leaves, the better it is for medicinal purposes. Oh, I fell down a deep rabbit hole around kawa-kawa.
We need to reach out to Yaron Overeem and chat with him. That's our principal from New Zealand that's doing all sorts of cool vibe coding stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been in touch lately. He continues to do really, really neat work. We absolutely need to put together some kind of a ChatEDU community for people who are doing vibe coding because people keep reaching out all the time about that. We're going to make it happen, I promise. All right, now, Liz, one more study. So this is not from Quinnipiac, but this was very much in the news. I had multiple people text me last week asking me about this. This is a pretty large Gallup survey. This is from Gallup directly. Gen Z's adoption is steady, but skepticism, and more than just skepticism, climbs. So give us just the summary on this one. I got a little bit of stuff I want to add too.
Yeah. So a 2026 Gallup survey reveals that while 51% of Gen Z continue to use generative AI weekly, emotional sentiment has soured significantly over the past year. Excitement and hopefulness are down, while anger has risen, fueled by concerns that AI may impair long-term learning, critical thinking, and creativity despite its efficiency gains.
Yeah, for sure. So some anger erupted over the weekend, and it was not a poo bombing or unfortunately, a mini fake video. So over the weekend, twice, Sam Altman, who is the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, the ChatGPT folks, his home was both shot at yesterday. He's got this beautiful home in San Francisco as well as one in Hawaii, I think, which maybe tells us something about the attacks. But I think it was more about the AI than the affluence. So shot out at the gates, and then also a Molotov cocktail was thrown at the house this past week. Now, interesting timing. Ronan Farrow and a co-author just came out with a pretty long piece in the New Yorker. Did you come across that this week?
The Hard Fork guys had Ronan and his coworker on the podcast last week.
Yeah. So what was their thesis around Sam Altman?
The question was like, is he a good guy or a bad guy? And I think there's a little bit of both. I think that was what their ultimate conclusion was. Like, there's some pretty disparaging reports around him and people that have worked for him, as well as plenty of people that are ready to come to his defense.
Yeah. He does seem to play fast and loose with the truth a little bit, which he's reflected on for sure. And that's tricky, right? Because he's building a technology that has, really significant implications for everything about our lives, from the environment to electricity to cognition to truth to honesty. You have really interesting interview with Tucker Carlson of all people, because, really, I'm not saying Altman lied, but you could just see him really having to think through to be careful. So we don't usually get into the leadership on these guys, but it is interesting and worth pointing out the distinction between the three guys. I'm going to put, and unfortunately they're all guys, right? But I'm going to put Musk out to the side. So you have Sam Altman from OpenAI, Dario Amodei from Anthropic, and Mustafa Suleyman, who built what was our favorite app when we started this podcast.
Yes.
I can't remember. Pi.
Hey, Pi.
Who is now the head of research at Microsoft, or the head of AI at Microsoft. And they're not Altman being slick and people being angry with him. Maybe in part just because ChatGPT is the Kleenex of AI, right? When people think AI, they just think about him. He is different, right? He founded a company called Loop, Sam Altman, and then he wound up running this thing called YC, which is like a entrepreneurship platform. But he's not a scientist. Demis Hassabis is, he doubled in computer science at Cambridge, and then has a PhD in cognitive neuroscience from University of London. Okay, right. Dario Amodei is a PhD in biophysics from Princeton. And then Mustafa Suleyman is a different animal. He actually he's like a social worker, essentially.
Oh, nice.
His first thing, he dropped out of college, I think, and he started tried to start a startup, was doing phone counseling.
Cool.
Which is really interesting. So they're not all the same. And at some level, right, I think they get treated differently and had different levels of respect. We on the podcast tend to be very oriented towards DeepMind and Google. And I think when you look at Demis Hassabis and Dario Amodei, they are different animals. They are scientists through and through, right? And they have a different kind of orientation around this technology. And so I think companies and people interact with them in different ways. All right. Whew, sorry, that was a little bit of a little bird walk there. But none of this justifies, attacking people's homes. But the anger is palpable, right? And this Gallup survey gives us a little bit of a view into that. But people have been protesting outside of OpenAI's headquarters for months and months and months now. They're really, really angry.
It's so interesting because I feel like even as I've done, even in the last 6 months as I've been in schools, I'm feeling a different kind of anger and questioning from people. Yeah. I was just at a school, and a very angry English teacher kind of wanted to debate this. And my own kids are it's so bad. I hate AI. And then, I spend some time on Facebook in places that you wouldn't think this debate would be really vicious, but the quilters are There's ways to make quilts much easier using some AI generated stuff, particularly art quilts where you want to make like images of people's faces. And people are really angry about people using AI to even make their quilts because it's an art. And I mean, so there's anger everywhere around it. And I think we are also like recognizing, like, we do not think that AI is a perfect technology. We recognize that there are lots of ways that, we think AI is great to like analyze some big data. Neither one of us thinks it's great when there are deep fakes of kids. Neither one of us thinks it's great when it's, when there's slopaganda. So we get it, but the anger is getting like vicious.
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the things that has been true of the podcast and our work from the beginning has been a pretty honest, clear-eyed view of the pros and cons of the technology. And we do that in our training. We do that in pretty much all of our work. We try to do it in the podcast, and we get good feedback around that. So everything goes back to the poo-bombing. It's a little bit of polarization.
Right.
Like, people really just want to pick a side. And the reality is that if this is a general purpose technology, you can pick a side, but you're going to need to navigate this tech at some level, right?
Right.
And I think the quilters have a fantastic place to be in this world where we like really double down on human experiences and tactile things, and at the same time, folks need fluency around this tech so that they can navigate it in a meaningful and thoughtful way. So I don't know. We're going to keep trying to find some sort of a third path, a middle way, as the Buddhists would say,
yes,
where it's not about polarization. It's about understanding the risks and the limitations, but also recognizing the assets and then just find the right way to navigate it. So that's the goal.
Let's do that.
You down?
I'm down.
All right. Let's not get angry. All right. So with that, I'm sure our friends at EDU would be thrilled about this story that we led up here. But no. Let's do a quick break here. We're going to hear from our partners at EDU who are doing some really awesome work. If you are enjoying ChatEDU because of that balanced view, but you're not currently following, please follow, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things on all the places. And if you are currently following, what should they do, Liz? What should dear listener?
You should share it with a friend.
Or 2 friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or a gaggle of friends.
A gaggle of friends. That's what you said last week.
I'm going to keep coming back to the gaggle. Every kid deserves a chance to succeed, and that belief is what drives great district leaders. And the good news? The data to make that happen already exists in your district. It's in your SIS, your assessments, your LMS, and behavior logs. The challenge is that it's scattered across a dozen systems. And when the full picture is hidden, even the most dedicated staff can't act on it in time. That's the problem EDU was built to solve. EDU's District Intelligence Platform connects all of your student data, attendance, academics, behavior, assessments, all of it into one place. Then it uses AI to surface what matters, which students need help, why they are struggling, and what to do about it. No spreadsheets, no digging, just answers. When a student starts missing school, EDU reaches the families in minutes, not weeks. When a cohort is falling behind in math, EDU shows you exactly where and delivers the intervention automatically. Districts using EDU are catching kids earlier, responding faster, and finally unifying data in a way that lets them see the whole student. Your students don't need more data. They need a team with less time between insight and action. Visit edu.app/contact to schedule a free data overview session with your district today. Well, Liz, let's do a little beyond the bot. Oh, I've gotten so many nice comments, by the way, on LinkedIn, my favorite place in the whole wide world where I think such meaningful stuff goes down. But nonetheless, people on LinkedIn have shared a lot of nice feedback on the piece that you and I, to some degree, published on Ed Leadership. The theme was about curiosity, and we did a really nice piece covering all sorts of ways that kids are using AI to solve meaningful problems. I'm just delighted with the feedback that we've seen around that. So, in that spirit, we've got some early winners from the White House AI Challenge. So first, this is from Austin today. 3 Harmony school districts win the Texas AI Challenge, and they advance to the regionals. What's happening with these guys?
Yeah, so there were 3 projects that addressed student agency, energy efficiency, and online safety, integrating AI within K-12 education and school operations. So the Human AI Agency Cycle, transforming passive learners into active co-creators, focuses on changing student roles in the learning process. There was a project on AI-driven, I thought this was so cool, AI-driven classroom lighting to improve student focus and energy efficiency. So smart.
Yeah.
And then the last one there was Kids Shield, using AI to keep children safe online on every screen. So like in all the state competitions, they now advance to regional competitions, and then finalists from the regional level will end up in Washington, D.C. in June of 2026.
Nice. Now let's go across the country, right to our backyard. This is from the Needham Observer.
Yeah.
AI solutions come from Needham's youngest minds, which is interesting. So this is elementary students from the Bay State Brains team. They won the 2026 Presidential AI State Championship. What did they do, Liz?
Yes. So these were students in Massachusetts that developed an AI-powered lost and found app. And if you have had elementary students, you know about the lost and found
They have
buckets.
lost and not always found.
Yes. So their app, Lost and Found, was designed to help students, particularly younger children who may be intimidated by school lost and found areas. And it will help them locate their missing items. So they can upload photos of lost items and search a database for matches. So things like water bottles, candles, and family members. So this was cool. Parents helped with some of the coding and project managing. And, the kids said that they learned like AI makes mistakes with coding and they had to fix errors. So, and so cute. The kids win the money, they want to donate it.
I love it. It's excellent. I think they also talked about a little travel fund as well. But interesting, right, Liz? So this White House challenge, especially the Needham one, because there is a bill that is in the Massachusetts state legislature to ban all screen time use in Massachusetts
for the littlest kids.
For the littlest kids, which we are sympathetic to, balance and thoughtful use and really and spending some time analyzing use. We're going to talk about that in a second, but would you ever want to have these kids not have the experience that they just went through? And if there were a screen time ban, you would essentially do that, right? So these are students using AI to build and to make and to develop really critical skills, not just technology skills. It's not about the screen, right? It's about problem solving and collaboration, intergenerational partnership.
Yeah.
There's so many good things going on here. So it is a reminder to us to be balanced in our view. Now, as Liz said, for old people like me, it's a really interesting new study out called Digital Balance, Why the Internet May Reduce Dementia Risk.
All right.
This is from Logos Press. What does it say, Liz?
So the article explores the dual impact of digital technology on brain health, contrasting digital dementia in youth with a potential 50% reduction in dementia risk for adults over 50, it's your category, who use the internet purposefully. So there are cognitive benefits, but it depends on active engagement, such as video communication and skill building, not just like watching TikTok videos.
And that's the hook, right? So that there's a nuanced, clear view of different uses of technology, whether it's old people like me or the little guys and gals in the Needham Elementary School.
Exactly.
So with that, right, we're making a little soft launch here. You can go to skills21.org/AI/screen shift. Now, screen shift is something we've talked about. This is a new project we're doing. As a regional education service center, part of our job is to, when schools are expressing a need, to try to figure out collaboratively with districts in partnership in a region, like how can we help support that? And everywhere you and I go, we're either hearing about bans on screen time at the elementary school. I mean, everyone's kind of like done the phone bans, which is fine. Although, frankly, I think the kids have just recreated their phones on their MacBooks and their Chromebooks, but hold that thought. But certainly there's a lot of like pressure around screen time in elementary and middle schools. And so our belief is that this is a great time to get good data about usage. So you have built a series of brilliant surveys for
parents, students, and teachers.
Okay, great. So that's looking both at their technology use in and out of school.
Correct.
Right. We've built some really cool apps for doing walkthroughs. So walkthroughs and shadowing, where you can observe a bunch of stuff happening in class. How cool is that demo you and I did last week with the developer?
I told you, it's awesome.
Yeah. So you like observe some stuff that's happening in the class, and then in the background, that app is processing it and putting it into the SAMR framework, which helps us understand lower and higher use cases for technology. There's an infrastructure analysis. So that tool actually looks at network traffic and try to make determination about time, but also the quality of screen time engagement. There's a tool to do curriculum and artifact reviews to look at the taught curriculum or the intended curriculum and get a sense of what kind of tech is being used, as well as focus groups. And then it takes all that stuff, puts it all together, and makes, do you like that sound effect?
Yeah.
And makes strategic recommendations from those inputs about like, okay, what does the technology use look like in this school or district? What might make sense? What can we peel back? What should we lean into in the interest of digital fluency and AI literacy? So we would be delighted if folks are interested. We'd love to chat with you about it. Again, it is Skills 21. You know what? Why am I reading a URL when I have an absolute professional sitting right across the table from me?
That is at skills21.org/AI/screen shift.
Yeah, so you can check out stuff there. There's a little video, there's a contact form. Be happy to chat with you about it. All right, Liz, finally in the rundown. Whew, really interesting. This is Olympia School District, which was kind of like famous in the early days. I think they were the first school district to put out like AI guidance that was pretty comprehensive years ago now. And so there's a piece just published in K-12 Dive, which is the first time I've said the publication correctly.
Excellent.
Do you know what I keep saying by accident?
I don't.
Yeah, I keep calling it K-12 Drive.
Oh, it's K-12 Dive.
Thank God. My balanced screen time has reduced my dementia and the clarity of my ability to read English. So yes, it's K-12 Dive. This is vibe coding that helped a Washington school district save $250,000 in ed tech costs. So this Peninsula School District in Gig Harbor, Washington is utilizing vibe coding, which is AI-assisted coding, which is basically just like using English to make stuff to build in-house alternatives to expensive tech subscriptions. By using tools like Claude Code at the $200 or $100 level. We've got one of each, I think, in the office, and we've been doing a bunch of this stuff as well. The district expects to save a cool $250,000 by the end of the 26-27 school year by canceling redundant contracts. But beyond cost savings, right, they've also developed applications like Lesson Lens to do AI coaching, actually not terribly dissimilar from the Project Cafe thing we talked about with Urban Assembly. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the chief information officer is Chris Hagel, and they identified some of the low-hanging fruit software subscriptions, including like Informed K-12, which is a workflow tool for HR and finance. They were able to replace that with their own vibe-coded tool. On Lesson Lens, this was developed by their director of research and assessment named James Cantonwine, and he made this app providing instructional feedback to teachers via audio and video file analysis. Like you said, similar to Project Cafe. It allows teachers to then reflect on their instruction using a bunch of different frameworks, but also like maintains privacy because the district cannot see their user interaction. So it's super cool. And now they're looking to the future. So maybe an AI-powered dashboard to streamline purchasing requests, particularly for the career and technical ed department. I'm sure they buy all kinds of crazy things. When thinking about your own district, Cantonwine suggests districts start by identifying problems that current contracts fail to solve or tools that are not worth their investment costs. So the district emphasizes a need for rigorous vetting and internal behind-the-scene checks to make sure that the AI-generated code is safe and functional. But we're seeing the same thing here at our agency, trying to come up with apps and things that make things smoother. Talking to schools about, are there different tools that they're using that could be easily replaced by something that is vibe coded or coded internally? So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. Have you been doing some of this in your trainings at all?
Doing vibe coding with people? Yeah. I haven't done a ton of vibe coding. I'm still not there yet, but it certainly is something I'm thinking about.
You were in the session
Yes.
we did together at the Atomic Conference, and it was like math teachers. And I don't know if you remember, but at one moment, I won't say what the company is that makes a similar thing, but
yes.
at one moment, a teacher developed something in like 20 minutes. I go, oh my God, I just spent like hours trying to get insert application here to do this, and it just did it for me, right?
Yeah.
And that is a window. Now, we have to be safe. We have to be thoughtful. We have to be careful about data privacy, all sorts of stuff. We've invested a lot here internally in training and infrastructure and privacy and code compliance and making sure that it complies with data privacy agreements. But it's doable. I mean, we're here to say it's doable. Liz and I are looking at and working with applications that are being built both operationally and instructionally here inside our agency. Happy to chat with folks about that. But you do have to spend some time making sure that it's kind of safe and it works effectively and it complies with state and federal law. But you can totally understand why the SaaS apocalypse or the disaster where, companies like Salesforce, right next to the story was a story that someone just basically used a tool, I think it was Replit, to create a Salesforce clone in like 30 minutes or less. And it just, kind of just built the thing in real time. So just super interesting.
Will it do my travel receipts?
Yeah, Claude Co-work will now at this point.
Can we figure that out?
Yeah, sure. We can. Let's talk to Justin. All right, Liz, we're going to listen to me talk about me. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like Scott Galloway sometimes. It's all about me. He really pushes some people's buttons. He has a great podcast called the Prof G Network. It's a whole network. But he tells a lot of dirty jokes, and he's just hung up on this. And so some people get turned off by it. But he's a very interesting thinker. Nonetheless, we're going to listen to me talk about the upcoming micro-credential. It starts on April 27th. We will run this house ad a couple more times. I think we're getting a pretty nice group. We've got a lot of people, again, from both the region here in the Northeast, but people from Florida and Texas and all over the place. I can't remember any international, but that's...
Yes, we have our friend from England.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's one of the fun things about the micro-credential. You get to meet people from all over the country. So let's hear a little bit about that. If you enjoy our insights on AI and education, don't miss our next 6-week AI and education micro-credential launching this spring in partnership with Southern Connecticut State University on April 27th. This self-paced online course for educators and leaders in primary, secondary, and higher education across the globe covers AI essentials from foundational concepts like effective and impactful prompting to advanced skills like multilingual video translation, AI-driven assessments, and even vibe-coded software development that truly anyone can do. We've added a bunch of new content for the spring cohort, including a focus on emerging risks like AI companions, energy, and the environment. We'll also dive into the latest in NotebookLM, which frankly could be a course unto itself. There are new student AI literacy resources, as well as important updates on student-facing tools like custom gems and guided learning in Gemini. Each cohort features 4 live Zoom sessions for hands-on support, and participants can earn a Credly digital credential upon completion. To learn more or register, visit skills21.org/AI/micro. Or feel free to email us at chatEDU@edadvance.org. Again, the course starts on April 27th, and we hope you'll be able to join us. Okay, Liz, time to go beneath the surface. So back to Jack Dorsey. This is from Forbes, although almost more interesting is his memos, huge memo that he wrote in partnership with this guy, Rolf Botha from Sequoia, which is the venture capital firm that he's partnered with. This is the place where he cut 4,000 people. He basically cut his company in half. Now, he had built his company up. There were a lot of people they hired during the pandemic. But what we wanted to focus on here was that he is exploring a different way to organize work based on AI. And it's kind of interesting. Like, he might be right, he might be wrong. I think he admits that they're not 100% sure, but it's just interesting. So they started by building one of your favorite things, a topic we come back to all the time here on ChatEDU, although it's a different iteration of it.
So different.
What is it?
Here, they built a world model. And this world model made so much more sense to me than you telling me that I was going to put on glasses and walk through downtown Venice and a dragon was going to land in the water.
Okay, cool. That's still going to happen. But what's this world model?
Okay, so this world model is of the company. And it treats it like a dense information network. And AI is actually managing the coordination and routing of tasks, which used to be handled by middle management. So he breaks the organization into 3 roles. I'm trying to understand this. So why don't you pick it up here?
Okay.
And tell me what's going on.
Look, I have not totally internalized this, but I spent a lot of time with it over the weekend for sure, right? So we have these 3 roles. We have individual contributors, ICs. These are people who do the stuff, right? They're coders, they're quality assurance folks, they're salespeople, they're engaged in the work. Then you have what they call DRIs, directly responsible individuals. Now, interestingly, they don't do this stuff. They're like the accountability people. So if they're noticing that Cash App, which is one of their tools, is not selling well, they're responsible for that outcome. So their job is to interface with the ICs, the software developers and the builders. But the way all the information flows is because the world model of the company, anybody in the company, including outside investors in the board, can query all the knowledge, right? Because it's a remote company, for one thing. So everything is digital. So they have all these...
That was an important
For
key.
sure, 100%. So they have all these digital signals about the organization. And so the outcome owner, the DRI, can see all that information, right? Then the third level are the coaches, what they call the player coaches. Now, interestingly, they are also developers. So they're also a little bit of an IC, an individual contributor, but their job is to mentor, coach. We've been talking a lot about mentorship because we're working on a mentorship project here for educators. But historically, there would have been 8 levels to that company, right? You would have had the software developer, the team lead, the manager, the senior manager, the director, the senior director, the vice president, and the C-suite. And their argument is that, look, we've got all the information. We now have this tool that will analyze and help us, kind of unpack all the information. So we really just need these three roles: the builders, the people who are responsible for the outcomes, and the quasi-builders and coaches of the first group.
Okay, so if I'm thinking about this, like our relationship, you are kind of like, you oversee my work in a lot of ways. So in theory, it would be like when I do my work, if I'm doing it within this world model, instead of you having to email me and say, hey, Liz, did you update those surveys? Or Liz, where are we on the conversation with Michigan? You would just be able to see what I've done already. And you don't have to ask me any of those questions. You can see, and you could see, there's 5 of us that or 4 of us that you kind of oversee. And instead of us needing to meet every week or 2 and say, like, I did this, I didn't do this, here's where I am,
I would know.
You would just know, because you could check on it at any time and just say, like, hey, did Gary make this 1-pager? You could just see, because you could almost see inside Gary's computer or inside the world where Gary's created this, and you could see, like, oh, here's the 1-pager, it's already there.
Yep, 100%. And we're not an 8-level organization. Thankfully, we're like kind of a 4-level organization, right? There's you and the team. There's me. I report to somebody. That person reports to the executive director.
Right.
In this case, right, they would pull out one of these. I mean, we're a sort of a flatter organization. But if you think about schools and higher ed, right, you got teachers, then you've got department chairs, then you have the assistant principal, the principal. In larger districts, you've got an executive director, then you've got a whole bunch of assistant superintendents, and the superintendent, at some level, even the school board, right?
Right.
So there's a whole lot of layers that move back and forth. Now, the question is, and in higher ed, same thing, right? We got professor, we got the coordinators of the leads, the department chairs, the associate deans, the deans, the associate provost, the vice provost, and the president and the board of trustees. Right. So we got lots of layers. Now, I think what we're posing out here is there something about Dorsey's model? And really encourage people to go read his kind of like full memo or read the Forbes piece, because it kind of calls BS on a few different things. But, part of what they have are these digital assets. They have very clean signals, and he points this out. They're all about making money, right? And all the signals are authentic. Are people spending money or not spending money? And so they're able to kind of like build a world model around clean signals. Now, we sort of have clean signals in education. We've got student performance data, but then we also have like retention data, and we have matriculation data, and we have SEL data, and we have behavior data, and longitudinal data about post-secondary placement. And there's a lot. It's not as clean. We don't capture them as well. Right.
And we don't capture it as frequently. Like Cash App is like daily. You can see different pieces of information. But I think about K-12 students or 312 students, like you're getting some data, but it might only be 3 snapshots a year of when they take some assessments. But it still is 3 times a year. It's difficult because the teacher's work that happens in the classroom isn't happening digitally the same way that...
Especially the screen time ban.
Right.
The world model just blew up between K-8.
Right. But it's not the same as like our work, which is very much happening mostly on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a good thought experiment, right? When the Dorsey story came out originally, I think there was a lot of like, oh my God, he cut 4,000 people. And that was the headline. But at some level, there's something very interesting about or it's just like snake oil, it's BS and what have you. And in the Forbes article, they sort of question whether or not, these AI is really up to what they're saying it's up to. Is the world model as rich as they think they are? Were they not just kind of a bloated company and they needed to pare back? But nonetheless, it is a good, like I share this with a couple superintendents that I work closely with, because it's just a good thought experiment. Yeah. And the other thing too that I thought was fascinating is that Dorsey basically says you've got 2 different kind of organizational responses to AI. One is the chatbot, and the chatbot will yield marginal productivity. We already know, like maybe it's going to make you 20% more productive, or say whatever the claim is. It's like human in the loop, chatbot, agents. It's gonna be an augmentation. His argument is that this is like a fundamental restructuring of using AI to flatten the organization and improve outcomes around data analytics and different kinds of roles. And it's interesting. Like, I don't know what it's like to be at Square right now or Block and see what they think about that. But they have this actually functionally working. Like before he made the cuts, they codified the world model. They codified these 3 different roles. They talked about how it would kind of happen. They did internal reorganization around it. So
I mean, I just keep thinking about it in our scenario, because it's so much easier for me to comprehend in our very small scenario, right? Like you as the boss, the 3 or 4 of us doing the work, me, Cam, Gary, and Justin, right? And so like if we all did work within this world model, theoretically at the end of every day, you could get a report that says, here's what Justin did, here's what Cam did, here's what Gary did, here's what Liz did, without us having to write it. AI could summarize it and then give you direction on like where we're falling down. So some of it makes me nervous and like surveillance wise, like if you get a report of what I've accomplished every day, like, I mean, I'm a perfect worker,
You
of
are
course,
amazing.
but so like if you get a daily report of what all 4 of us have accomplished, I'm a little bit worried about the surveillance, but maybe it's even something, maybe it's not daily, maybe it's at the end of each week, you can get a report of like, here's the things that were accomplished here, or you could chat back and forth with it. Like my big goal for this week was to have this email out, these things reorganized. Where is everybody on those things? And kind of see so that when we meet the following Monday, you could say, I mean, I just think back to COVID when like every day
we captured
met
every signal.
every single morning at 10 a.m. Me, you, Cam, Gary. Justin wasn't here yet. Just about like, okay, what are you going to do today? Okay, what did you accomplish yesterday?
Sure.
And like how much easier it would have been if you could just like basically download what we've done. But also, what does that look like surveillance wise? Then thinking up and down the organization, like if Jonathan could see, I mean, it would be kind of cool, right? If Jonathan at any time could say to a chatbot, give me a summary of what's going on in adult ed, which isn't located in the same building. And he could get like what's going on all the adult ed stuff. Again, like the surveillance part is creepy, but also like could give him really clear signals quickly.
It's funny because I don't think of it as surveillance. I mean, in part because you guys are awesome, right? So
Right.
It's a strong team. Everybody's really committed to the mission. We collaborate well. And reality is that you're putting signals into the system every single day about stuff. Nonetheless, I spend a good chunk of my time, as does Jonathan, as does any leader, checking with folks on stuff. Hey, where are we on this? Hey, where are we on this? What's the update on this? I mean, that's a lot of time.
Right.
And those signals would be there. They would be of quality. If they weren't there, it was a good chance to just say, hey, see, this thing's not done. Like, can we, and that's what we spend a lot of time doing, is just like prioritizing tasks, right? So what I love that you're doing here is that you're treating this as a thought experiment, which was really the goal, right? So if you're any of these roles, you're an IC, you're an individual contributor, you're a doer, you're making this stuff happen. If you're a DRI, a directly responsible individual, you own the outcomes, or you're the kind of coach. I think what you're playing out is a lot about the world model. Like, how would we improve the signals in order to just make ourselves more efficient, but let AI do something?
Right.
It's funny, if you go back to his memo, right, this long piece that he wrote, he starts with the Roman.
Oh, it's so fascinating.
Right?
Oh my
because
gosh.
It's like, how did these structures happen? They started with the Roman army, with these departments and divisions and generals and all this kind of stuff. That got translated to the American and European railroad systems. That got translated into American business models. And what Dorsey and both are basically saying here is that like AI is going to break that, and there's an opportunity to re-envision this. So thought experiment. The gauntlet is down.
All right. It's an interesting thought experiment.
Well, good. I appreciate you. I appreciate you playing along, which makes for a perfect segue into Bright Bite. And Liz, what a week for Bright Bites, right? These are stories where AI is making meaningful contributions in health, society, culture, the environment, natural disaster recovery. And there were like 4 stories.
I know you obviously could not pick one because I looked at the notes today and I was like, there's 1, there's 2. Oh, there's 3. Okay.
Right. So let me do the first 2 and then you do the third, right? So the first one was from the Radcliffe Department of Medicine at the University of Oxford. That's over in Yield,
England.
Yeah. So new AI tool can predict heart failure at least 5 years before developed. So Oxford researchers developed an AI tool that analyzes routine CT scans to predict heart failure risk with an 86% accuracy half a decade before symptoms appear. That seemed cool. I was like, oh, that'd be a great Bright Bite. Yeah. And then I saw another one, material science, which is fascinating, right? Scientists use AI to create ultra-strong, rust-proof steel for 3D printed parts. This is from Interesting Engineering. I love that.
Oh, my favorite
great
magazine.
Publication title. So researchers use AI to design a new steel alloy that breaks the traditional trade-off between strength and flexibility while offering high corrosion resistance. So those are both cool Bright Bite stories. But the winner for this week in the Bright Bite, we should do this as like a contest every week. Who wins the Bright Bite? Which is the secret, never before used CIA tool that helped find an airman downed in Iran. This is from the New York Post. Tell us about this one, Dr. Erode.
Yes, so the CIA successfully deployed a classified AI-powered tool called Ghost Murmur to rescue a downed U.S. airman in southern Iran. So the technology uses quantum magnetometry to detect the electromagnetic signal of a human heartbeat from miles away, isolating it from background noise to locate individuals in remote environments.
Yeah. So, and it was really interesting because this particular environment, like this wouldn't work well on the Upper West Side of Manhattan because there's too much background noise, right? But in this case, the desert environment was kind of perfect, right?
Yeah. So there was a person, Dude 44 Bravo.
If I was in the military, I would love that to be my name.
Who's a weapons system officer hiding in an Iranian mountain crevice. So CIA Director John Ratcliffe alluded to the capability during a White House briefing, suggesting it could detect targets from up to 40 miles away. So the airman did have a standard GPS beacon, but he had to leave his hiding spot to use it. And so the AI tool then provided the precise confirmation of his location while he was able to remain concealed. I mean, your heartbeat from miles away, that's insane.
Yeah. Now there's a little bit of shadow stuff going on here. So we're hopeful that all this reporting is accurate because I think this was not necessarily something that the CIA fully intended to disclose, but through a couple different sources, we were able to get a picture of this. So it felt like that one did justify the win for this week's Bright Bite contest.
I agree. I like it.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Dr. Erode, 106 in the can.
Yeah.
Let's keep rolling along. We're moving close to 100,000 downloads and streams, which is cool. We'll let folks know when we get there, but really nice to be with you. Next week, we're recording, I think a day late, but still recording. And so we'll see you back in the office and maybe we'll be a little bit closer to some fresh and cutting edge news.
All right.
All right. In the meantime, there's all sorts of check-ins. How are you feeling about the check-ins? Are you enjoying them?
I like to try to find fun stories.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Your check-ins perform very nicely, Dr. Erode.
Excellent.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with what in God's name we're talking about, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can check out the check-in and then be sure to see the big show each and every Friday with Dr. Erode and myself. But yeah, these are like 3-minute, single story, just fun, interesting things that we don't cover talking here together on the Friday podcast.
Yeah.
Good. You know what we never say on the check-ins?
Roll the credits.
There's no one to say it. Now, Dr. Erode, it's time to, you can say it to yourself. Now, Dr. Erode, it's time to roll. That would seem a little weird.
It would seem a little weird.
All right, but we will officially hear.
Roll the credits.
Awesome. See you next week.
Bye. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at ChatEDU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the executive director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our educator and leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to ChatEDU.